Welcome, everyone. This is Jason Clemmons, Doctor of Chiropractic at the Rock Health and Wellness Center. And this is Life with Jason Clemmons, DC. We are live right here on Friday, August the 16th, coming to you from all of our social media platforms and on the radio at 98.7 Walk by Faith, 1420 AM Lubbock Christian Nation. Hope you guys had a great week. We had a great week at the Rock. Had some really interesting things happen. Had some interesting shows we put on this week. And got to one of my friends followed the page, and I got to hear from him last night. He sent me a text that it made me laugh. He said he was trying to listen to the show, but he got bored, so he just went to Brahms and had a milkshake. I thought that was hilarious. Leslie and I both I showed Leslie the phone last night when I was talking to him, and Leslie and I both just busted out laughing. We were like, yep, that was funny. So anyway, no, he's a great dude. I love that guy. Don't get to see him much, but he's one of my best friends in the world right now. So yeah, good times. Good times. And that's not what we're about. We're not about Brahms milkshakes on a Friday night or a Monday night or a Tuesday night, right? This is health. This is health for an hour that we bring you right now. And I think we got everything turned on. We've been practicing with some stuff this afternoon, trying to get it all nice and ready for you. So, hey, I want to know, and no one ever talks to me while I'm on the show, so I just talk to myself. But I want to know how the first week of school went for you guys. It's I don't know if it started in all the places across the world, but it started in Lubbock. I know it didn't start in Littlefield. They don't start till Tuesday of next week. And so, but it did start in Lubbock, and everybody's back at it. Hey, I just can't tell you. I want to say this for any of the students. I know all you students are listening to to the show. I know y'all are listening to this on Friday night at 6:00. But learning is awesome, man. I'm telling you, I am a huge fan of learning. Really am. I can't get enough of it. One of the guys asked, said, "What do you got to plan this weekend?" And I said, "No, I don't think I have anything on my agenda for the entire weekend." He said, "What are you going to do? Get a little rest and recovery?" And I said, "Nope, I'm going to study and learn. I'm going to read. It's going to be great." And so all you teachers out there, if you're a teacher, if you know a teacher, or if you ever seen a teacher, if you have any interaction with a teacher, man, I hope y'all understand how awesome it is to teach. Like, sometimes I think the teachers forget. I think the administrators forget. If you're an administrator out there, I hope you remember that. Hey, don't forget how awesome it is to teach. It's a big deal. It's really a big deal. I was talking to Leslie the other day, and we were talking about some patients and processes of what goes on in the office. And I was talking, we were talking about how much easier it is, and I'm going to say this I hope I say this properly, but how much easier it is when you're educated. How much easier it is when you're educated and intelligent. And I'm not saying that I'm intelligent, but I definitely am educated. I've been to college for 12 years, so I definitely am educated. But man, you get a smarter society. You teach those kids something. You teach it matters. It does matter when you grow up. So if you're teaching first grade, second grade, third grade, any of those grades right there, don't you take it for granted for 1 second. Don't you think for 1 second that what you're doing is not making a difference in the world. Because what is anybody doing that's making a difference in the world? Everybody. I mean, I think of that sometimes. I think, man, maybe I should do something that makes a bigger difference in the world. And then I think, what is that? What would I do? I mean, I have the opportunity to make a huge difference in the world. And so does the guy that runs the bank, and so does the guy that works at the grocery store, and so does the girl that works at the grocery store, whatever. So does the person that teaches. I really want to encourage you. If you're a teacher, I want to encourage you. I want you to know that there is somebody in your community that really, really thinks what you're doing is important. I'm not getting into the politics of whether or not you should get a raise. That's not my deal. So, but what you do is important. Don't forget about that. Don't forget about that. That's a big deal. Teaching kids is a big deal. Like you get them from second grade to third grade, and from third grade to fourth grade, and they're just moving right along. Y'all remember the first day of sixth grade or seventh grade where you went to the new middle school and you had the opportunity? Like, man, that was a big. One of my kids this week, he started at the new middle school or junior high, whatever they call it here. I think it's sixth, seventh, and eighth grade, and I think he's a sixth grader. And I said, "How was your first day of school? How was the new school?" And he said, "It was big." And I was like, "Okay." I said, "Do you have any friends that went to school with you? You got any friends in class?" And he's like, "Yeah, I know some friends." And it was like, "Okay, that's good. Hey, we got a shot at it, right? We got a shot to make it better. We got to get him encouraged." One of my other kids had been dealing with some depression all summer long because he'd been sitting on his butt and playing video games and staying up all night long and doing all the things that kids do these days, I guess, that don't work all summer long. His mom and dad worried about him. His depression was really bad. I was like, get him off his butt and make him get his feet moving and get him off this dadgum phone. We have a way better shot at getting him going, right? Well, he come in this week and he's just smiling and just talking and way back to his old self. And I was like, yeah, just get him back in his routine. So I'm a big fan of education. I'm a big fan of learning. I'm a big fan of teaching. I hope all you guys that are out there involved in that process, I hope you take it serious, and I hope the parents take it serious too. We got a lot of social media influencers out there trying to tell people that school is not important, public school is not important, and college is not important. All that stuff right there, I think all that's a bunch of hogwash. Personally, I think learning is a big deal. So anyway. Hey, headline in the news. I want you to just be aware of I saw this. I heard it earlier, and now I saw it again, and I'm like, okay, here we go. The WHO. This is from Yahoo News. Now that's not a scientific journal, but the WHO, the World Health Organization, declares monkeypox, a global health emergency. What to know about the new strain? For the second time in 3 years, the World Health Organization declares Mpox as a, quote, public health emergency of international concern. Okay? So there's some stuff going on out there. This is a health and wellness channel. I talk about health and wellness. And so I'm not talking about Mpox or the WHO or whatever that's going on out there. I'm simply saying that you want to be prepared whenever you have to deal with anything. And I think that's what, if we go back to the very first show back in September, when one of the first couple shows in September, when we tried to define health, and we were talking about being able to handle whatever you face today. If your body is good enough condition and your brain is in good enough condition to handle whatever you can handle, that whatever you're required to face today, and you can say that every single day for as long as possible, I think that should be the definition of health. Like you handled today just fine. Your brain handled today just fine, and your body handled today just fine. No issues whatsoever. And you could just keep doing that every single day and every single day. Now, one of these days, you'll run up against something that you can't handle. And so you'll wonder, what could I have done to make it better so that the next time I have to handle this, I can handle it better? And then you'll start to work on physical, chemical, mental, emotional stress. You'll start to work on diet and exercise and sleep and all those sort of things. It'll matter to you. So, the best thing you could do, I think, the best thing you could do is make a decision every day to try to be as healthy as you can. That's the best thing you can do. And once you decide that you're doing that, then don't worry about all these headlines out there. Don't worry about those headlines and what they're going to do, because worry will decrease your immune system function. That's factual. That's factual. If you're worrying about stuff, your immune system, you'll run yourself down, because you'll be driving your right brain. You'll be releasing cortisol. Your whole adrenal system will be going, and your immune system is going to get dampened by worrying about that stuff. So, hey, I'm not going to worry about it. It's just like playing Nebraska back in the old days. Okay, maybe I was a little worried. No, just kidding. You got to prepare for them. You got to prepare for you playing A&M or Texas or Nebraska or Oklahoma or one of those big schools. You got to prepare for them, and then when you're prepared for them, you just got to go play them. And so the same thing with MPOX or whatever else is going to come along down the pike. Look, we got to prepare for it, and then when we face it, we just got to face it and fight it. And when we fight it, we're going to be uncomfortable. I had this conversation today with one of my young, my 20-year-olds, because she said she got a stomach bug. And I said, okay. I said, you get it? She said, my body just ached. And I said, did you get a fever? And she said, I'm pretty sure I did. I'm pretty sure I had a fever. And I said, well, did you take your temperature? And she's like, no, but I think I had a fever. And I said, well, did you stay away from it or did you let it burn? Like you try to get it down or did you let it burn? And she was like, oh no, I took 3 Benadryl to knock me out. And then I took a Tylenol for the pain. I was like, okay. And I said, why? Why'd you do that? She said, I can't stand to be uncomfortable. I can't stand that feeling that I feel like I'm just going to die. She said, I can't stand to be hurting at all. And I'm like, man, where did we come up with that idea? That we can't stand it, right? I was like, oh gosh. In my brain, I was thinking, oh, you didn't watch the show. I told her, I said, you didn't watch my show last night, did you? I said, I did a whole show on acetaminophen and Benadryl, doubling up, tripling up on Benadryl, three Benadryl tablets to knock her out. Oh, are you kidding me? I was like, so you're a drug addict is what you're saying. And she's like, no, I'm not a drug addict. So anyway, be ready for it. Be ready for it. Let your body fight it. If you don't feel real good, let your body fight it. Let that fever run. Give yourself a chance. Give yourself a chance and understand all the mechanisms and let that fever run and stay after it. So anyway, be prepared, face it, be ready for what's coming down the pike your way. Make sure that you're prepared for it. Because I'll tell you what will happen. It's the same thing that we talked about this week with my offensive coordinator throwing the Diet Coke up against the wall or getting to the Texas game and all that sort of thing. If you're not prepared and you get in the middle of it, you'll freak out and you'll be feeling regret and you'll be, man, I wish I wouldn't have eaten all that ice cream. It's like, dadgummit, I wish I wouldn't have messed up my entire nervous system and my entire immune system by feeding it all that refined carbohydrate. And then bam, now here comes the sickness and I can't handle it, right? Okay. I wanted to show you something, and I'm going to get into what we're going to talk about tonight on the show is we're going to talk about nerve distribution to the front of the thigh. That's pretty specific. Okay, we're going to talk about lumbar disc because I've got a new patient. She might be listening to the show tonight. She asked me the question, is it muscle? Do you think it's muscle? And I was like, okay, it's muscle, it's nerve, it's bone, it's fascia, it's blood supply, it's disc, it's all of it together. It's nerve function, it's inflammation, it's diet and exercise, it's all of it, okay? You cannot just have muscle problems by themselves. You wouldn't know it. You wouldn't know if you had a muscle problem if you couldn't feel it. And if you couldn't feel it, if you could feel it, you got a nerve involved. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. We are going to get into that. We're going to get into it pretty good, I think. I think you guys will like what we got on store for you. But I did want to, in store, not on store. I wanted to show you this. This is a slide that I made during COVID. And it's the omega-6-3 ratio stuff, right? And it's 21 arachidonic acid to EPA ratio scores from patients at the Rock. So I just went through back in whatever it was, 20 or 21. I just went through and I just took the first 21 scores that I had, right? And I just ranked them. From this arachidonic acid is inflammation, and EPA is your anti-inflammatory. That's what you're getting from your fish oil, okay? So I just went through like that, and the arachidonic acid with the COX enzymes and the LOX enzymes, there's the biochemistry of how that all works. and which goes to series 2 prostaglandins or leukotrienes B4. So you're going to get inflammation. Okay, when you have high levels of arachidonic acid, you're going to get inflammation if you pass through those if those pathways right there. Okay, so vegetable oils, grain-fed animals, peanut butter, corn, etc., like that, things that are high in omega-6 fatty acids, you're going to get that. Okay, so but if you got the EPA from fish, then what happens is those turn into series 3 prostaglandins or series 5 leukotrienes, and then that's anti-inflammatory. So what your 6:3 ratio really does matter, right? And so I posted this about the cytokine storm and all that stuff, and I'm not trying to talk about that stuff tonight, but I just wanted you to see what it looked like. And you guys on the radio, there are 21 people, and 2 of them, what we're looking for is a 5-to-1 or less arachidonic acid to EPA ratio. That's what we're looking for, okay? A 5-to-1 or less. We're really looking for a 3-to-1 or less, but we'll take a 5-to-1. And I think I even changed the colors up a little bit on this, but there's only one person out of that 21 people that was less than 3-to-1, and there were 2 people that were less than 5-to-1. And then you can see how we had these less than 10-to-1, and then everybody else over the top was greater than 10-to-1. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6. So there's 15 people just randomly that we have tested in the office back in 20 or 21. And you can see what the numbers went to, and the highest went all the way up to 35. These people scare me when it comes to inflammatory problems or respiratory diseases or anything like that. They're the ones that are having all that inflammation going on. Okay? So that was back in 2021. Now, so what I did today, this afternoon, I had a little time, and I just wanted to run through there right quick and show you what I just took the first 21 people. The last I started with today, and I just took the last 21 people that we've tested in the office, and I just ran the numbers again. I just put them on a spreadsheet for us and just put them out there, okay? And over here, this is the arachidonic acid to EPA ratio, and there's 2. And now I got the numbers, I got the colors right in this one, but less than 3-to-1, our target ratio, we got 2 people. And those 2 people have been patients of mine for a long time. Now, none of these scores that I'm showing you right now, none of these scores were in that first set of scores that I showed you. Okay, these are all brand new scores of brand new people, and there's no names on them or anything. It's just simply the results. So we only have 2 people right there, and that are under 3-to-1, and we only have 2 people that are under 5-to-1. And then if you count the ones that go 10-to-1 or less, we've got a few more in there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 out of 22. So we got 14 that are over 10-to-1. And then you can see where we get up. The highest one is 60.8. And we talked about that person earlier in the week. That 60.8, we retested that after a short period of time of taking her fish oil, and that 60.8 went to a 6.0. So that there was a huge change between 60.8 and 6.0. I'm just telling you what I'm trying to show you right here is that any random population, anytime you just pick somebody, and I don't know if that's necessarily random, but because these are all wellness patients, it looks almost the same every single time. There's a couple people that are 3-to-1 or less. There's a couple people that are under that 5-to-1 or less. You get a couple more that are 10-to-1 or less, and then the majority of people are over 10-to-1. Corn chips are 84-to-1. Omega-6 to omega-3. Peanut butter is somewhere between 1,700 and 4,400 to 1, depending on which people you look at or study. Lots of omega-6 vegetable oils, corn chips, corn-fed animals, all that sort of thing that we eat all the time keeps our inflammation up. And I thought you guys might think that's interesting, just to be able to see it and see what read. If you guys listen to us on the radio, check us out on Walk by Faith radio, Facebook page, and you could go back later and check this out and see that. But I think it's a big deal. I do think it's a big deal right there. You wonder why there's so much sickness and disease, and you would be really surprised to see that a lot of this inflammation stuff, because we just don't get it. We don't get it. We don't get why we want to take our fish oil. We don't get why we want to have our fish oil in the right ratios and all that sort of thing. Okay? So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. I thought it was cool. It's not cool. It sucks. But I thought the two graphs side by side would show exactly what. Man, look at that. There's a lot of people on there that have these higher ratios, and no one will test that. Your medical doctor is not going to test that for you. You're not going to go to your medical doctor and get your 6:3 ratio checked and discuss why your inflammation's high. You're just going to get told that you have arthritis, which is inflammation of the joint. And then because it's inflammation of the joint, you're going to get an anti-inflammatory. But your inflammation is global. It's global inflammation inside your body. It's systemic inflammation. It's inflammation because we got too many in. You can make a fire hotter if you add more wood to it, right? We don't want to add more wood to the fire. We want to keep that flame as low as possible. We want it down there in that 3-to-1 ratio. Then when it wants to attack a virus or something, or handle something, you stick a nail in your foot or scratch your leg, or your dog scratches you. I had half a dozen or a dozen people come in this week with dog scratches. Their puppy dog scratched them. I was like, what is this? Hey, today she had it wrapped around her wrist. And I was like, what happened to you? And she's like, oh, my dog scratched me. And then I got another girl that her cat got her right there above the eye, and she got scratched. And so, yeah, when that happens, then you need some inflammation. That's going to turn red around that scratch, that whole thing. That scratch on the arm is going to turn red. It's going to swell up. That's inflammation. That's the immune system doing its work. That's what it's supposed to do. Don't worry about that. That's what it's supposed to do. So, anyway, okay, let's move along. I'll get rid of those. See if I got anything else open in my windows right here. Nope, that's all I had. I had a couple more things that's just going to remind you of, but I'll skip that for right now, and then we'll move along. So let's get started a little bit right before the break, and then we'll take a break. We'll come back after the break, and we'll get we'll get better, or we'll finish the rest of it. Okay, all right. So you guys may deal with it. You guys may deal with it a lot, and I know we've gone over this before. But I don't think you could go over it enough times, right? You've got low back pain, okay? It's not my favorite subject to talk about. It's not even my favorite subject to deal with, but it is a subject we got to deal with because it's something it's common amongst everyone, okay? You're gonna when you have low back pain, what people tend to say is they tend to say things like, well, it's sciatic. I got my sciatic flared up. And that's kind of the catch-all term. Like, that's the same thing that a lot of people will say when they say arthritis, right? It's just kind of a big, broad. There is sciatica, and it's a specific type of issue, but there's multiple reasons that a person could have low back pain. But I want to start with the idea. I want to start with the idea that when people say like what was presented to me is it muscle? You think it's my muscle in my leg? And it's like, no, it's not the muscle in your leg. I want you to think about where you are in your room. If you're in a room right now, hopefully, if you're driving down the road, just think about being in a room. But if you're at home, Just look at your light switch. Wherever you are, just look at your light switch. Okay? My light switch is over there on the wall. I got two of them. It's a double light switch because I got two different lights in this room. Okay? There's a double light switch right over there on the wall. Now, where's the light bulb? The light bulb is up there. There's light bulbs up there, but the light switch is way over there. Okay? My lady that is talking to me, she has pain in the front of her leg. It hurts. The leg, her thigh hurts. And it's been hurting for over a month. And she's been to two medical doctors that told her she had sciatica. And then I did my talk over at the WISE group, and we talked about it afterwards. And I said, nope, that's not sciatica. It's coming down the front of your leg. In my experience, I'm not saying they're not talking trash about the medical doctors. I'm just saying, in my experience, that's not sciatica. That we got some that nerve distribution that's coming to the front of the leg, and so today she's like, and she's 80 something years old. So she said to me, "Do you think it's muscle?" And I said, "Well, no, it's not muscle, but it's always everything." If you look at a whole person, you got to look at the whole thing. If you can feel it, you've got nerve supply. Okay, we got to take a break. You guys on the radio, we got to take a break. I'll be right back, and we'll break this down. And I think in the second half of the show, we can really break this down so you can understand it. We'll be right back. Okay. I'm not saying that you can't have a muscle that's malfunctioning. But to separate it out and say, is this a nerve problem? Is this a muscle problem? Is this a bone problem? Which which practitioner should I be seeing? I think that's really where the question comes in. I think, and if you guys agree with that, you can send me a text at 806-794-0400, or you can send me a comment on Facebook or any of our social media. You guys, some of you guys are checking this out on Twitter. If you send me a comment on Twitter, I can't figure out how to handle that, but you can say something anyway if you know how to do that. If there's comments on Twitter, I'll work on that. But I think what the question is that where should I go to fix this problem? You're a bone guy. So if you're a bone guy, then should I be going to a bone guy or should I be going to a muscle person? Should I go to a massage therapist or should I go do physical therapy? Should I get my bones adjusted by you? I think that's probably where the question comes from. Or the statement that it's muscle. That I think maybe that you might agree with that. I just want to present for your consideration that I don't think that is the proper way to go about it. Because if you can feel it, that's what I was trying to explain to her. I was like, look, if you can feel it, it's got to be nervous system. It's your nerve. You can only feel your nerve, right? You can only feel your nerve. And it's only a certain percentage. One of my ladies told me this week she quit taking her supplements and she feels fine. And I'm like, okay, well, let's break that down for just a second. Since we're on the break, maybe we could break it down real quick. There's my brain. There's my body, right? Where do feeling nerves come from? Feeling comes from the body to the brain. Those are the only nerves that I have that have any sensors that I can feel. Let me get us back on. Hang on. Okay, everybody, we're back. This is Life with Jason Clemmons, DC, and we are back on the radio, and I hit the wrong button, and so the music's going to get loud for just a second, but hopefully just hang with me. If I get a chance, I'll see if I can make it quiet down just a little bit. Sometimes I was just talking to Bob about that. Sometimes the ducking button gets stuck, and then we get stuck with loud music, and I can't fix it. There it is. Maybe that'll help. Okay, we're talking about pain into your thigh, and we're talking about lumbar stuff. Okay, that's what we're trying to talk about tonight. And I was just talking to the social media group about feeling, right? If you feel it, it's coming from your body to your brain. Then your brain is going to process it, and it's going to send information back down to your body. There's no feeling in fibers there, right? Let's just remember that. So how you feel is a bad indicator in how you're functioning. Don't let that trick you. Okay, let's get into our presentation today. So what we talked about was, she talked about lumbar spine. Okay, let's look at the lumbar spine. Let's look at it, and let's see if we could start to understand it just a little bit. Okay, this is the whole pelvis. This is the femur. And I got to give credit to this picture to Ken Hub right there. Right, they're the ones that made this picture. Here's the lumbar spine. Here's each one of the nerves that's exiting out of there. You can see the nerve distribution. You can see how the nerves run along the spine right there. You can see the psoas muscle. This big, that muscle that's actually, it's the iliopsoas muscle is the muscle that we're looking at right there. But I wanted to show you, and you guys follow with me on the radio. I want to show you that there are nerves. The point of this is that you have lumbar spine nerves that are coming down your leg, that are getting distributed down your leg. And you have muscles along here that are involved in the way that this spine is functioning. And depending on where this problem is going to depend on which area of your body is hurting. Okay? So that's just one picture of the whole thing. Here's another picture of it. It's the same thing. It shows a little bit better of some of the back muscles, the quadratus lumborum muscle that's here. But what we've got here is we've got the lumbar spine, we've got the lumbar plexus, and we've got the lumbar plexus that's running down the leg, and it's going to move all the way down the leg. Okay? And the way that the lumbar spine is working, you can have problems anywhere. This whole thing can give you problems. You can have problems in the lumbar spine. You can have problems in the SI joints. You can have problems in the hip joint itself. You can have problems in the facets, and I'm going to get to that in just a second. Okay? Now, remember, and this is vitally important. It's vitally important when we're talking about lumbar spine function, and it's one of the things that you will skip every single time. You will skip the idea of what's going on in your brain. And remember that your brain inhibits your flexor muscles. Let's talk about that. And don't lose me on this, okay? Your brain inhibits, it turns off your flexors. Do this with your hands and squeeze your hands really hard. Just squeeze your hands like that. Okay, now, if you're going to want to unsqueeze your hands, how are you going to solve that problem? You're going to have to relax, right? You're going to have to relax your hands. Your brain is going to have to relax your hand. If your hand is squeezing really tight, and then it's like, okay, relax your hand. That relaxation feeling that you get, that moment where your hand is really wadded up in a ball and it's really tight, and then all of a sudden that relaxes. Well, your brain's doing both of those. Your brain is contracting and your brain is relaxing. But I want you to think about what happens to the body. You guys understand the word rigor mortis. I want you to understand what happens to the body when a person dies. They get really stiff, right? Because their brain quit working. The brain quit working, so they got really stiff. Okay, the the mechanisms of the muscle changed in the whole body, right? Okay, when your brain is not working as well as it's supposed to, if your brain's not firing properly, all of the flexor muscles on your body are going to be tight. They're just going to be tight. And one of those flexor muscles is that psoas. That psoas muscle right there is a flexor muscle. And when you go to look and you say, what is the action of the psoas muscle? At the hip joint, it's flexion of the thigh or trunk, lateral rotation of the thigh, and lateral flexion of the trunk, meaning it'll pull your lumbar spine over, lateral flexion of the trunk. If that psoas muscle gets tight, it starts to pull and bend. That's where you get you'll get a whole scoliosis type of thing going on, right? You look, if my psoas on my right side starts to tighten, it's going to pull me over here. Now where are my eyes? They're way over to the right. So what is going to happen is now all of a sudden my shoulders are going to start to pull, and they're going to come back across, and then they're going to come back up at the top. And so what am I going to have? I'm going to have this whole wave that's going on in my spine because I've got this tight muscle over here. Why did that muscle get tight? Well, it's called idiopathic scoliosis. We don't know for sure, but what we think is what functional neurology people think is that we got brain imbalance. Got to get that brain to turn that muscle off. Okay, so that is one of the things. That's one of the things, and one of the things that happens is we start to get into flexion. We start to really, when we start losing our brain, we start getting into flexion. And I'm going to show you why that's important here in just a second. But just remember, the psoas muscle is a flexor muscle, and it's under the control. It gets inhibited by the cortex on the same side. Okay? I don't know if that makes any sense, if that's too complicated. It gets relaxed. I can make my psoas on my right side relax by ramping up my brain on my right side. The better my brain is working, the less contracted my psoas is. You follow me on that? Okay. My battery is at 44% on my phone right now. I can make my battery charge up if I plug it into my battery charger. I can add some energy to my battery and it'd make my battery charge up. I can add some energy to my brain, my frontal lobe. I can add some energy by walking, by getting my eyes up, by being social, by doing all those things that we always talk about. And because I do that, I'm ramping up my brain and I'm relaxing my psoas. And now I got a chance to get my lumbar spine out of flexion and get into a little bit of extension. And I'm going to try to make sense of that whole thing. So just remember, frontal lobes inhibit flexor muscles. It is vital that we keep our frontal lobes functioning. Otherwise, we're going to have a problem. Now, whenever we put pressure on a nerve, we will feel it in a dermatome. A dermatome is an area of skin supplied by a single spinal nerve. And if you go back and you look at all these spinal nerves, and you can see at every one of those levels, there's a nerve that's exiting the spine. In your lumbar spine, your low back, you've got nerves coming off. Every level, there's a nerve coming off. And every level, that has a place in the body where you could feel it. It's like, ow, that hurts. So look where this L1 comes right into the top of your groin from the front. Like it comes around from the back, but you'll point to the very top of your groin whenever you have L1. And L2 is a little bit in the inside of that. It's the bottom part of that groin into the thigh. And then look where L3 goes. L3 comes right across the middle of that thigh. So if you put your hand and you say to yourself, my leg hurts, doc. You say to me, my leg hurts, my thigh hurts right here. And you'll just run your hand right across your thigh, right to the inside of your knee. When you do that, you're putting your hand right across the top of that L3 dermatome, right there. Okay? You don't have a problem. You may have a problem in your quad. You very well could have a pulled quad. Okay, that's one of the things that would cause pain. Quad muscles. Okay, I'm fixing to show you a picture of them. But you could, just because you have pain in your thigh, does not mean that you have a muscle problem in your thigh. More than likely, there's nothing wrong with the muscle at all. You don't need to do any muscle activities. You don't need to do a massage. You don't need to do magnesium for that. You don't have to ice your thigh. None of that is necessary whenever when we're talking about nerve root problems. Okay? So we've got this nerve distribution that's coming across the front of the thigh right there. It hurts. The leg hurts. But if I want to turn this light bulb off, I can't go up to the light bulb. I don't go up to the light bulb to turn this whole light fixture off. I go over there to the wall where the outlet is, and I turn that off. Because we all know that there's a wire that goes from that outlet up into the wall, and then the switch, not the outlet, the switch. We know that there's a wire that's attached to that switch, and it's going up through the wall to each one of these lights in the room. There's a nerve that's going from your back into your leg. There's a nerve that's going into your leg, and I think I got it maybe on this next slide. There. This is a picture of the nerves that run into the leg and down into the foot. So now those nerve roots that we looked at in the previous slide, now those nerve roots are coming down. They're coming into the thigh. They're coming down behind the knee. They're coming down into the foot. They're coming down the back. There's your sciatic nerve. And it's coming down the back of your leg. And it's coming down behind your knee. And it's coming down there and it's splitting. And it goes down there to the back of your leg. Right? So when you say sciatica, most of the time in my experience, I'm not saying it's 100%, but most of the time in my experience, sciatica is going to stay down the backside of your leg. So are facets, and I'm fixing to go over what the difference between those two are. If you say, man, I got pain running about, it's killing me. It's in my glute, and it just runs down the back of my thigh. It hurts, okay? That, to me, has more to do with your sacrum and your ilium and your SI joint, which I'm going to show you a picture of here in a second. That pain that runs down the back of your leg, most of the time, not saying all the time, but most of the time, that is some sort of sciatica or facet joints. But if we've got pain running across the front of the thigh, then we've got to get the brain turned on so that we can get the lumbar spine to get out of flexion. Okay? It's coming to the front of the thigh. Then we've got blood supply to that whole thing. And that's another thing that we don't think of. We've got blood supply that's going arteries and veins. Arteries carry blood from your heart to your body. Veins carry blood back from your body to your heart. Arteries have oxygenated blood in them. Veins have carbon dioxide and all that other stuff that's coming back trying to get breathed out. Okay? So we also have a blood supply. And that thing's not going to work. That muscle is not going to work if it's not getting good blood supply. So when you say, well, is it a muscle or is it a nerve or is it a bone? Yes, yes, yes. And it's blood supply and it's fascia and it's tendons, which is the end of the muscle attached to the bone, and it's ligaments. It's all of it. And it's the environment by which it's in. That's where your omega-6-3 ratio comes in. It's the inflammation that's in there too, right? So we do have blood supply, and we don't need to forget about that blood supply. It's important. And what's in that blood is important. And now we can actually look at the quad muscle, which is not a quad. That's what I learned in AMIT. There's really 13 muscles in that leg. And I know that you might think that's crazy, but of the quad itself. But there's 13 muscles in that quad because it gets divided in, some of those muscles get divided in different sections. But you got a bunch of muscles that are right there. You've got muscles that's coming around that are coming from the top of your hip and coming around to the inside. That's called your sartorius muscle. They call it the Taylor's muscle. So if you're sitting in the floor with your legs crossed, you got that muscle contracted. You've got the muscles that are running down the front of your leg, and there's kind of outside, there's lateral quad muscles, there's medial inside quad muscles, there's muscles that are really short down here from your kneecap to your thigh bone. You've got some adductor muscles on the inside. You've got some big, heavy muscles that run from they run, some of them attach right underneath your hamstring, which is on the back of your leg, and then come up in here to the bony point of your groin. And so there are lots of muscles there, but someone will have pain in their leg and they'll think, oh my quad is killing me. My leg is killing me. Well, remember this. Nerves do not like to be stretched, and nerves do not like to be pressed. They don't like to be pinched or compressed, and they don't like to be stretched. And if you do either one of those things to a nerve, you're going to feel it. It's going to say, out. Like right now, I'm doing that to this right up underneath, right underneath this glute on this left side from sitting on this bench. It's this little stool that I'm sitting on. I can feel it. I can feel it right there. And that nerve is trying to tell me, Jason, you don't pinch me like that, or don't stretch me like that, or don't cut the blood supply off to me like that. Don't do that. I don't like any of those things. Move around a little bit. Get off of that. Wiggle in your chair. Get off of that thing a little bit. Take the pressure off of it, right? So you've got nerves. You've got muscles. You've got blood supply. You got all that stuff. Okay? Now, this is a really good picture right here of a facet joint. F-A-C-E-T, facet joint. All right? We've dealt with this a lot this week. We've dealt with this on the show a lot. It's kind of a repeat topic that just keeps coming back up. Probably been going on in human beings since human beings. That's about how long this problem's been going. The facet joint is on the back. It is not the disc. It is not the vertebrae. It is not the disc. It's the facet joint on the back. And the facet joint is supposed to touch. It's on the back here. And this is the front, and this is the back of the bones. We're supposed to have a curve. We're supposed to have a curve, okay? And when we have a curve, then what we get is we get lumbar facets touch. They touch. But if we have too much curve going backward, if you get too much curve, you will jam those facets. And when you jam that facet, you're going to make it mad. It's going to get hot. It's going to get irritated. And it's going to get mad. And there's nerves that are inside that facet. They come off and exit, and then the nerve root, I'll show you a picture of it in just a second. The nerve, let me actually show it to you right now because I want to show you the difference between the facets. But you see this, here's a picture of a disc. We're looking at the spinal cord from the top. So we're looking down at it. You guys on the radio, imagine that we've got a half section of your body and we're looking down on top of it. And the front is over here and the back is over here. And so this is the disc. The outer part of the disc has an annulus. The middle part of the disc is a nucleus. We've got a spinal cord and we've got nerve roots. And off of that nerve root have these little shoots, like roots or weeds or whatever that come off of there, right? And you've got nerve supply into that facet joint. And nerve supply into that facet joint, and now all of a sudden, when you hit that, it's going to feed back. It's going to feed back from the nerve supply, and it's going to start to move its way. If you start to make it hot, you ever grabbed a handle of a pan that's on the stove, and the handle, it doesn't have any sort of rubber on it, and it's metal, and you're cooking on the stove, and the fire is up underneath the middle of the pan, but the handle is hot. It moved, the heat moved out to the outside of the handle, made the handle hot. That same thing happens to those nerves that are in that facet. They start to hurt, and you get the pain right in the back. And then you get the when you're in that extension position, you're going to be jamming those facets. It's going to start to feed itself back. And when that feeds itself back to the nerve root, it goes down the nerve that way a lot of times, or it follows a pathway where you get distribution down the back of the leg, downwards, down into the glute, down that way is almost facets. We'll do things in the office to rule out whether or not it's a facet or a disc. And you can go all the way to MRIs if you need to, but we'll analyze it, and we'll do the orthopedic test that we need to do. We'll do the X-rays and we'll do all the stuff, but we'll determine whether or not. But I can get an idea right off the bat with three orthopedic tests and just your distribution of pain. You're like, man, it's coming down my thigh. It's like, whoa, hold up, that's a different thing. Okay, that's a different thing. So the facets are in the back, and the facets usually are bad when you have overextension. Like if you sleep on your stomach, if you lay on your stomach and you put a pillow up underneath your chest, and now you bring your head and shoulders backwards, all of a sudden your low back starts aching. Especially if your body sinks into your bed, you'll get that bilateral backache right across the belt line, and it feels really good to lean forward and stretch. Okay, that's a facet. Now the opposite of the facet is the disc. And now, whenever we get the disc involved, in this picture here, you can see that annulus really well. And then you get the nucleus in the middle. Now, this is a ruptured disc or a herniated disc. This one on this side is, you can kind of see what happens to that. That nucleus kind of works its way through that annulus, and it bulges and hits the nerve. And I had one of my guys this week said, I don't understand. It just comes on all of a sudden, and then it just goes away all of a sudden. And I was like, well, it's like, look how close you have to be. I don't know if you guys can see this, but if this is the nerve and this is the disc, and it goes right there, I can't feel it. I can't feel it at all. But then if I go just a little bit further, I'll feel it. But if I come off of it, the width of a piece of paper, like if I can slide a piece of paper in between the disc and the nerve, you don't feel anything. I mean, related to the nerve root. Now, you still have nerve supply on the outer 1/3 of that disc, and you still feel that, but you don't feel it. So it's like moving pressure onto a nerve to pinch that, or put pressure on that nerve, is like micromillimeters sometimes. It's like less than a millimeter is all it takes is to put that pressure on the nerve. And then it's like, whoa, that hurts. And then we could get that pressure off of that nerve, and then it's like, whoa, that's way better. But it's not way better. It's just a micromillimeter better, but you don't feel it anymore. You're like, oh man, you fixed me. But it didn't last. Yeah, because it's right up in there. Now, a disc problem is a different thing. And what usually happens is when you have this disc, here's another picture of it right down there. When you have that disc problem, you will get that dermatome problem across the front of the thigh. It's most of the time, those that in my practice that I've discovered, most of the time that some sort of disc involvement somewhere along the way, we've got that nerve root involved that's now coming around to that dermatome that's hitting that front of that thigh. Okay? And that's what we got to do. And what happens here is we're in flexion. We've taken this vertebra and we've put it into flexion. So now it's bending forward. And when the vertebra bends forward, thanks to Stu McGill, one of the top guys in the world about disc, when the vertebra bends forward, it pushes, this is the front. So it pushes on the nucleus, and it moves the nucleus to the back. And as it moves the nucleus to the back, that nucleus starts to work its way through that annulus, and then it'll work its way onto that nerve. And if your brain is not working, if your brain is failing you, you will sit slouched in your lumbar spine all the time. And if you look at your phone constantly and your head is down and you're looking at your phone, what you're doing is you're also putting your lumbar spine into flexion, and constant flexion of your lumbar spine is pushing on that nucleus and pushing on that nucleus and pushing on that nucleus, and it's pushing it out the back, and then all of a sudden it gets the nerve, and now you got the pain running down the thigh. So we got to get into extension. We got to get you to hold into extension by making sure that your brain is firing. Okay? Yeah. The real quickly, there's an SI joint, there's a hip joint. I'm going to run out of time, but there's different places. There's lumbar spine, there's facets, there's SI joint, there's hip joints. There's different places that that you can get problems, and I just wanted you to see them. I hope that helps. I hope if you're trying to study that, I hope that helps you a little bit so that you can kind of understand what is going on with that leg. And what are we going to do to make it better? We're going to try to make your brain work. We're going to try to get you to be upright. We're going to try to get you to get out of flexion. And then it might take a couple of visits. Other than that, yeah. Okay. That's all I got. We're out of time. I hope you guys have a great weekend. We'll be back on Monday.